What if the most powerful brain protection ritual in the world has been practiced for centuries in Japan, not in hospitals, not in laboratories, but in living rooms, community centers, and quiet morning routines by men and women in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who show some of the lowest rates of dementia anywhere on the planet? And what if that ritual requires nothing more than your two hands? Researchers began noticing something unusual when studying the cognitive health profiles of elderly populations in rural Japan. These communities had elders well into their late 80s performing tasks that younger adults in other countries were struggling with. Sharp recall, fluid conversation, emotional clarity. And when scientists looked closer at the daily habits of these elders, one pattern kept appearing. Their hands were never still. They folded paper. They practiced intricate finger sequences passed down through generations. They moved their fingers in deliberate, complex, repeating patterns every single day. And their brains, on imaging scans, looked measurably younger than their chronological age. Today, you are going to learn 6 of those finger movements, not simplified versions, the actual drills. And by the time you finish watching, you will understand exactly why your fingers may be the most direct pathway into the health of your aging brain. Here is the science you need to understand first, because it changes everything about how you look at your hands. Your motor cortex, the region of your brain that controls movement, dedicates more neural real estate to your hands and fingers than to almost any other part of your entire body. Your fingers are not just tools. They are direct extensions of your brain's most active processing territory. When your fingers perform complex, unfamiliar, multi-step sequences, they do not just move, they generate electrical activity that ripples outward into the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, the cerebellum, and the regions governing language and memory. A 2022 review published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience confirmed that fine motor training in adults over 60 stimulates neuroplasticity in multiple brain regions simultaneously, producing structural changes that passive cognitive exercises simply cannot replicate. The brain does not grow from comfort. It grows from precise, demanding, unfamiliar physical challenge. And nothing delivers that challenge quite like your fingers when you know exactly how to use them. The first movement is called the crane fold sequence, and it is rooted in traditional Japanese origami practice, specifically the foundational hand positions used before folding the iconic paper crane. You do not need paper for this exercise. Place both hands in front of you, palms facing upward. Now bring all 5 fingertips of your right hand together so they touch at the tips, forming a point like the beak of a bird. Hold that position for 3 seconds, then slowly spread all 5 fingers as wide as they will go, fully extended, maximum spread. Then return to the pinched beak position. That is 1 cycle. Now here is what makes this neurologically significant. After 5 cycles on the right hand, you perform the same movement on your left hand, but in the opposite timing. When your left hand is pinching closed, your right hand should be spreading open. When your left hand spreads open, your right hand pinches closed. Opposite hands, opposite positions simultaneously. This bilateral opposition activates the corpus callosum, the bundle of nerve fibers connecting the brain's 2 hemispheres, and forces both sides of the brain into coordinated but independent processing. Japanese community elder programs have used this warm-up for decades. Modern neuroscience now explains why it works. Perform 10 full bilateral cycles every morning before any other activity. The slowness is deliberate. Rushing eliminates the neural benefit entirely. The second movement is called the mountain and valley press. Traditional origami uses 2 fundamental folds, the mountain fold and the valley fold. And this exercise mimics those opposing gestures in your fingers. Begin with both hands flat on a surface, palms down. Now lift only your index and middle fingers on your right hand, keeping your ring finger, pinky, and thumb pressed flat. Hold the lift for 2 seconds, then press the index and middle fingers back down and simultaneously lift your ring finger and pinky together. Thumb stays down throughout. That is the right hand pattern. Now your left hand performs the same sequence, but shifted by 1 beat. When your right hand lifts the first pair, your left hand is pressing down. When your right hand lifts the second pair, your left hand is lifting its first pair. You are creating a rolling wave of alternating elevation and contact across both hands, never synchronized, always offset by exactly one movement. A 2021 study from Keio University in Tokyo found that finger independence exercises, specifically those requiring adjacent fingers to move in opposite directions, produced significant increases in gray matter density in the supplementary motor area within 8 weeks of daily practice. 8 weeks. That is the timeline for measurable structural brain change from a finger exercise performed with 2 hands on a flat surface. The third movement comes directly from a specific origami preparation technique called the inside reverse fold position. Extend both hands in front of you with fingers together and palms facing each other, as if you are about to clap but have stopped just before contact. Now, without moving any other finger, fold only your middle fingers inward so their tips touch the center of your palms. All other fingers remain straight and extended. Hold for 3 seconds, then extend the middle fingers back out and fold only your ring fingers inward in the same way. Work through each finger individually: index, middle, ring, pinky, on both hands simultaneously, always the same finger on both hands at the same time. This sounds manageable. It is not at first. Your fingers share tendon structures and neural pathways that make true individual isolation genuinely difficult. The resistance you feel is not a sign that you are doing it wrong. It is the signal that new neural pathways are being recruited. A research team at Osaka University demonstrated in 2020 that isolated single-finger flexion exercises in adults over 65 activated somatosensory cortex regions that had shown measurable deactivation in the preceding years, effectively waking up dormant neural circuits. Practice this for 3 minutes daily, moving slowly and accepting the awkwardness as the point of the exercise, not an obstacle to it. The fourth movement is called the butterfly count, and it introduces a cognitive layer on top of the physical one. Press the backs of both hands together with fingers pointing upward. Your thumbs will link together at the base, and your remaining fingers will spread wide on both sides, creating a shape that resembles butterfly wings. This is your starting position. Now fold your right index finger down while keeping every other finger extended. Then unfold it and fold your left index finger down. Alternate right index, right middle, left middle, continuing through all 8 non-thumb fingers in an alternating cross-hand sequence. While you do this, count backward aloud from 50, saying one number with each individual finger movement. So your right index folds as you say 50, your left index folds as you say 49, your right middle folds as you say 48. The simultaneous demands of bilateral, asymmetric finger movement and verbal backward counting create what researchers call a dual-task motor-cognitive paradigm. A 2023 clinical paper from the National Center for Geriatrics and Gerontology in Obu, Japan, found that dual-task exercises combining manual dexterity with active counting produced a 34% improvement in processing speed among adults over 70 after just 10 weeks of practice 3 times weekly. Processing speed is not a trivial metric. It governs how quickly your brain shifts between tasks, retrieves words, and evaluates situations in real time. It is one of the first cognitive functions to decline with age and one of the most responsive to targeted intervention. The fifth movement returns to pure origami mechanics and is called the petal fold preparation sequence. Traditional origami masters use this sequence to train hand coordination before attempting complex multi-layer folds. Place your right hand flat on a surface, palm down. Now lift your hand slightly and curl all 4 fingers, not the thumb, so that only your fingertips touch the surface. Your hand forms a curved arch, like a cat's paw resting lightly. From this position, tap each fingertip individually in this order: middle, index, ring, pinky, then reverse. Pinky, ring, index, middle. That is 1 pass. Your left hand performs the same sequence simultaneously, but begins on the opposite end. While your right hand starts with the middle finger, your left hand starts with the pinky. The sequences run in mirror opposition, meeting and crossing in the middle of each pass. This movement specifically targets what neuroscientists call intermanual coordination, the ability of both hands to perform complementary but distinct tasks without one hand defaulting to copy the other. Research from the Tokyo Metropolitan Institute of Gerontology found that elder populations who maintained high levels of intermanual coordination in daily activities demonstrated significantly slower rates of hippocampal volume loss over 5 years compared to those whose hand use had become repetitive and bilateral. The hippocampus is where your memories are formed. Protecting its volume is protecting the architecture of your identity. The sixth and final movement is the most demanding and the most neurologically potent. It is called the origami master sequence, and it synthesizes elements from all 5 previous movements into a single continuous drill. Begin with both hands flat on a surface, palms down. Your right hand will perform this pattern. Tap index finger, lift ring finger, tap middle finger, lift pinky, return all fingers flat, then repeat. Your left hand simultaneously performs this pattern. Tap ring finger, lift index finger, tap pinky, lift middle finger, return all fingers flat. Both hands are tapping and lifting at the same time, but on opposite and mirrored fingers. While this is happening, count forward from 1 to 10 aloud, pausing for a full breath at each even number. The combination of opposing bilateral movement and patterned verbal breathing creates triadic neural demand that activates the motor cortex, the prefrontal cortex, the cerebellum, and the anterior cingulate cortex simultaneously. A landmark joint study published in 2024 involving researchers from both Kyoto University and the Max Planck Institute recorded more distinct brain regions activating during complex bilateral opposition sequences than during any other non-pharmacological cognitive intervention they had measured. Begin with 2 minutes of the origami master sequence per session. Expect significant errors in the first week, expect improvement in the 3rd, expect the movement to become fluid by the 6th week, and at that point, begin introducing speed variations to maintain the level of neural challenge the brain requires. Here is what ties all 6 of these movements together and why Japanese elders have been living this wisdom for generations without necessarily knowing the neuroscience behind it. Complex, asymmetric, bilateral, cognitively layered hand movements are among the most direct triggers of neuroplasticity available to the human brain at any age. They do not require equipment, they do not require a prescription, they require your attention and your consistency. The brain you have today is not fixed. It is responsive. Every time you sit with your hands and work through these 6 sequences, you are sending your neurons a signal that does not age, does not expire, and does not diminish based on how many years you have lived. That signal says, adapt, rebuild, stay sharp. The elders in those Japanese villages were not doing anything magic. They were simply giving their brains a reason to keep growing every single day with nothing more than the movement of their fingers. And now, so can you.